Hey everyone, and welcome back to the podcast UX Design to Win in Business. My name is Niels. I'm co-founder at Dinghy. We are a strategic front-end UX design agency helping companies get their digital products done faster. We speak a lot about user experience and how to apply it in business, and therefore I'm very happy to have my friend Jan Heinemeyer on the show today. He runs a very successful and rather large freelancer network by now, and also gets in touch with a lot of different businesses in the digital space and consults them on all sorts of business strategy. Welcome to the show, Jan. Maybe you can also tell us like a couple of words more about yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Niels. I mean, we met in Berlin a long time ago, right? It was my first job as a product manager. You were a front-end software developer back then. And this was my start of the journey in the Berlin startup ecosystem. And I made my way up to being a CPO and then transitioning into freelance in 2015. And I came to realize very quickly that it's rather hard to get good jobs when you're on your own all the time. And so we started that Slack channel, right? It was you, Achilles, me, and some other guys. And that channel grew into what it is today. We have more than 500 people from now all over the place, right? It was software development mainly back then and product management and design a little bit. Today we have people from basically, we have all people that you need to build a digital business, right? We have people in finance, we have people in HR, in operations, and I'm managing that network today. It's an invite-only model, so you can only join by recommendation of an existing member. And of course, I'm talking to a lot of companies on a daily basis. And recently I started taking up consulting gigs again because I was missing the hands-on experience.
Yeah.
Very much interested, of course, in all things AI and automation. And I was recently delving into the repurposing content for one of my clients with the help of AI and automation. Yeah, that's something I'm deeply interested in. And I guess it's a good topic for today.
Very cool. Yeah, totally. So we're here to talk exactly about this. At Dinghy, we have the month of content management solutions and everything that goes around it, because I also realized from many conversations that people are not making the best use of their existing content. And we started talking about exactly this. You kind of jumped out of the box on this topic. It was like, exactly, people have this stuff lying around, and I know that you're keen on exploring all of the new solutions that generative AI can bring, and you're posting regularly about like different hacks and solutions. And we also spoke about this before on the show, that you're also always interested in solving little problems for any size of business really, but also for the small businesses, right? Like to just unlock them, to get something done faster and to be able to focus on their job. And I always love that, like a lot about you really, like that you walk into a coffee store and see something going well, not ideally maybe, and then just walk up to the owner and say, hey, you know, this could be a lot easier. Should I just make you something with Zapier or can I help you to implement a solution to your problem? And most of the time, if I understand this right, people are super happy. Do you have like a recent example where you did something like that?
You mean in a coffee shop?
Or in any sort of, like, I feel like you always go in and see these little things that can be better in people's lives and workflows,
Yeah, it's a bit of a problem sometimes, because when you're in this optimization kind of mindset, you see problems everywhere, right? And you to optimize your own life and other people's lives, and at some point you have to come to the conclusion that you need to focus. I mean, this is also, I always call it my ADHD brain, because there are so many shiny objects that you can work on. So I really need to focus. But yes, I did that for the client that I work with right now. And I started something that I call Growth Map with them. So we basically got together, had a brainstorming session and looked at the customer acquisition funnel, all the way from building awareness to converting their clients into paying customers. And it's a very high-end luxury product. so the journey is rather long. But on the awareness stage, they had only inspirational content, which is okay. But then after the inspirational content, the whole funnel through the AIDA model was missing. And so they have lots of long form video content, for example, that they don't use. And they had it on Vimeo, right? They didn't have it on YouTube because they didn't think about the SEO implications of their video content. They just thought, okay, let's have these videos here and some customer testimonials, and we implement it on our website and we send some links in newsletters. So, I mean, Vimeo was good for that. It was working for them. But if you want to build an audience and want to attract more customers, then YouTube, of course, is the way to go. It's the second biggest search engine. It belongs to Google, right? So the first thing we did was just taking that content, optimizing the descriptions for keywords, and then putting it just on YouTube. It was very simple, just like there's no magic in that. There's no automation magic in that. But then we started creating shorts from long form video content like you do with Opus Clip, for example.
Yeah.
And I showed them that they could just, take existing long form content, identify potential viral snippets, right? And then publish them on YouTube as shorts to get more traction for that channel, right? And we did that for a month, and now the channel, without adding new content, is attracting 100 to 200 views per day, which is pretty good for doing nothing, right? And then the next thing we did was, for example, we did the same with TikTok. And the funny thing was that the founder said, like, our customers are not on TikTok. I said, yeah, but I don't care, because TikTok's a big platform. They have a lot of authority. When you Googled their name, you would find TikTok videos that were not theirs. It was some makeup.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know if TikTok is doing that on purpose, just like targeting brand keywords or something, but it was showing random videos. And so I said, yeah, even if your customers are not on TikTok, and I bet there will be some. I mean, it's not a big audience, I guess, but there will be people who will be potential customers. But the SEO implications are interesting because there are some people who say like SEO is dead in 2024, but video is strong. And if you post shorts on YouTube or if you post TikToks and you use the right keywords and the right description, it's very easy to get on the first page on Google because you have these video results sometimes on the first page, right? Especially on mobile. So we did that, and we targeted very specific keywords that people were asking for in the people also ask section, right? So it gives you an idea of what people are looking for. And within 2-3 days, these videos would show up on the first page on Google, right?
Amazing.
And so these kind of like small hacks that we could use and we had the content, right? We just needed to basically recycle it, add the right keywords, and publish it, and that was all. It was not rocket science, right? And so these things are things that I'm very much interested in. Like, what are the typical low-hanging fruits, right? What do you do to have like the minimum effort and leveraged impact.
Yeah, that's what I love about your approach since always, really, because like you don't have like a programming background. And I think in this case, or maybe in many cases, this naturally leads to this approach of how can I make this thing on my own? Like, I don't want to go out hire people now to program this into this very stiff workflow, but how can I make this just on my own? And I mean, being a programmer myself, I think I can say that usually when somebody comes along and says, can we automate this or that, then my brain goes to, but sure, we can make like this little web application and then it will talk to 1 million APIs and we just have to days later, nothing really works, And Jan already made like one and a half workflows that actually do stuff on everything that's out there today. And I think especially the last 2 years, as we all know, made this whole field of setting up no-code solutions much more interesting, I would say, because there's so many fancy pants tools that give you anything alongside of text generation, text reformatting, image, videos, right? like you mentioned a couple of tools. And so maybe let's take a minute and take like the bird's eye view and introduce people to what we're trying to get at today. So content management, you probably know, like people talked about CMS or content management, and there's like a million different solutions to this. Like one popular thing is probably your regular WordPress website. That is something where you log in, then all of the stuff that you get there and that you can change about your website is generally considered content management. But there's also, of course, a lot bigger systems. Like there's so many different content management systems. I think for larger corporations, there's the Adobe platform, for example. There's Contentful, there's Sanity, Storyblock, like so many different content management systems. And we actually don't really care about the system today, but about the fact that companies go out and create content like long-form videos, for example. In this case, I think it's actually already pretty amazing that they have good long-form videos, because that's absolutely not necessarily the case for all the organizations. And you already teased on the fact that it's a good lever you have that you can pull, especially in this year, last year, since text content on the web is also so easy to make, that I think we're really seeing a shift in SEO. And so what Jan and I want to talk about today is how can you use the content that you probably have sitting around somewhere already and use it without a lot of effort to your strategic advantage. Like going along Jan's story, they had videos, so they made shorts of it, posted that on YouTube and TikTok, and not just closed platforms like you mentioned Instagram in our discussions for this podcast episode, and that's like a closed silo. We can touch on that later too. So how can you reuse all of that content to actually give you more visibility without a lot of effort? And so maybe let's talk a little moment about what changed in SEO land and why we're so enthusiastic about video content, I suppose. Can you describe a little bit what changed?
I'm far from being an expert on that, but let's try. Yeah, I think we are seeing a flood of text content right now because everything is just AI generated. There's a lot of very generic content, and I think Google is doing a great job at figuring out what content is good. So you will have massive amounts of content that is just not being seen, and then to really stick out, your content needs to be exponentially better than the content that's out there. But I mean, people who are really good at using generative AI to create text content, they can also produce very good text content, right? So they can,
that really feels like a human wrote it,
yes,
right?
They can, for example, if they rank on the 4th or the 5th place, they can just take their content, compare it to the competitors on the first 3 places or 4 places, and AI will tell them what exactly they have to do to outperform them, right? And even writes the text for them.
Yeah.
So I think if you, like the real SEO experts out there, they're doing a great job at that. And if you are just a content writer, in a company, and you want to build content that is outperforming that content, I think it's getting increasingly harder to do that. And I think that's why, and because I'm not an SEO expert, it would take me a long time to create a great landing page or like a great text piece and rank on a high level. That's why I stumbled upon the video approach. I just found this YouTube video, and the guy said, yeah, SEO is dead in 2024, you have to use videos. I was following his approach, and it worked. And I think it's amazing. And also, given the fact that the younger generation is using more video content than text content, it's easily digestible. And I even found data confirming that if you are looking for information that is a bit more complex, people tend to use video instead of text explanations.
And why do you think that is? Just because of the reading time? Is this like how much attention span are you willing to provide to this piece of content, or is there like another reason for it? I don't know.
No, I can only speak for myself, and I use YouTube myself every day to learn, and I just don't like reading up content for explanations like, how do I do this in Google Sheets or something? I just don't do it anymore. I mean, I like reading books, but that's a different thing. But if I want to know something about a certain service or product, I prefer video.
So I can totally just say the same thing for myself. I also use YouTube every day. I think I didn't get into TikTok so much yet, but also because I really like long form content. Like when something is discussed in like half an hour or even an hour, and there's like good chapter marks on the video, then I'm really willing to get into this, and even like maybe the first, like to scan if this is something for me. Sometimes I don't even turn on the sound and just like jumped through the chapters and look at the captions if they're like sort of talking about the right thing. And another very interesting point I think to mention that we also spoke about on the show before, also in my episode with Pietro, who was really like an SEO expert, and he also said what you're saying, to be able to outperform especially bigger organizations who have still a lot of budget to really work on their search engine optimization. It's just so increasingly hard for smaller businesses to have a chance, to go against them. And he advised us, for example, as a small organization, to go onto video, because especially exactly what you mentioned before, that YouTube is the second biggest search engine. And on top of that, that a lot of things that used to work in SEO land for websites, like listing a bunch of keywords, what your video is about, like all of that stuff doesn't work on websites anymore because people misused it too much. But since YouTube is a closed platform and they have a much better handle to, well, actually also take videos out of their platform if they're sort of going against the rules that you can't really do on the web because, well, people have websites online. But so many things, many SEO tricks from a couple of years before work today on YouTube still, because you have this description field, right, where you can add a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's very simple, right? If you know your keywords, and you can even play around with it, you can just like start typing in the Google search bar, and Google will tell you what the most important next long tail keywords are. And if you search for one of those keywords, you see, is there video content or not, right? If Google is suggesting video content, then maybe there are other players in the market who are already trying it. If not, you're the only one, right? You just post one video and you'll be there in 2-3 days.
And I think that's an absolutely important point to make as well, that since YouTube belongs to Google, they feature videos at the very first position on the search results page, which is like, it almost feels like hack to make a video.
Getting the full size first position is hard. What you always get is the short video section, which is in the middle of the page or something. You can get there in 2-3 days.
Perfect. And so cool. Like from when we built websites the last couple of years for small to medium businesses, I would say, I always went ahead and suggested to use a headless CMS. Now, that's a technical term. I'm totally aware of that. And the idea is only that, imagine like the place on WordPress where you log in to see all of your content. It's the same thing, only that it's not like married with your website. It's a sort of, I think it's easier to think about it as actually just like a database of stuff about your company, and then you can use that on your website, but you can also use it on your apps or wherever. And it's sort of like, we even renamed our CMS to Content Warehouse, because it's actually a lot more like this. And what you can do in such a system is that you put in the content in a way that it makes sense semantically. So you don't put in like a page, the About Us page, and put all of the content that is relevant only for the About Us page, and then you have it here, because you might want to have the section where you're describing your own company in a short sentence. Maybe you want to use that somewhere else, like outside of the About Us page. And so what I mean with semantic structuring is that it's more about the entity that you're describing. So if you have a project, then have a list of projects and have like a title and a description and a keyword and when the project was done and maybe have like a testimonial connected to it. But also testimonials can be their own thing. Blog articles can be their own thing. Like you can make up this database and structure it in any way that you really like, and then start to reuse that content on different platforms. And I think this has a whole bunch of upsides for, I think actually for everyone, but especially for the organizations who don't have the budget to kind of fix the problem with manual labor. So, right, like that's what bigger organizations are doing. They have like a huge marketing department, and if they want to have the same piece of content that they have on their About Us page, they just have people copy paste it to the place where it's supposed to go. And if you have it in 10 places and somebody wants to update this description, well, then somebody just has to go to all of those 10 places manually to update this sort of description. And I think what you're also doing with integrations and to get content from one place and to repurpose it into another place, that's all automatic. Like there's no, I have to copy paste something or like copy it, do something to it, and then paste it in another place. And I think especially generative AI, you probably can't just let it work all on its own, or like it'd be interesting to hear your expertise about this. But there's like, it can do so much, especially also on video. And maybe let's talk about that point a little bit more. You mentioned Opus Clip and to create shorts. How does that work exactly?
I would like to talk about something else before we jump into the whole video thing. Because I mean, yeah, the CMS for your website is, okay, of course you need it, right? But let's be honest, most companies don't publish a lot of content on their CMSs, right? So every now and then they're like, hey, we need to change this sentence, and then that's it. The blog is a different thing, right? But what I'm trying to do is, so the worst part about implementing new processes in a company is people, right? Because change management is always the biggest problem. If you want to make people do what you want them to do, sometimes it just doesn't work because they're like, I have all of this shit to do already. I'm not going to do this, you know? It happens to me every day. So my approach is I'm trying to look at the processes that are in place, and I ask myself the question, what do I need to do to leverage what these people are already doing without them changing anything? So
that's interesting.
Yeah, so then the CMS is not the CMS on your website, but the CMS could be your Instagram account, right? Every post you make on Instagram with a caption, AI can create the text much better than you do. You could just, what I did for this customer, you just scrape all of the Instagram content that humans created in that company. You feed it into the vector store of an assistant. So then you talk to the assistant through an automation tool like Make. And then maybe you use Airtable, you know, or something like as the source. And then you just say, okay, I want to publish this picture and it's about topic X, you know, and then the automation runs and it will tell the assistant, hey, I want to create an Instagram post about topic X. And the assistant already knows it has to speak in the language of the company because it knows the language of the company because it has all that content in the vector store, right? It will create an Instagram caption that looks exactly like all of the other ones. You won't see it's AI. It's talking the same language. Even, you know, some companies, this one client that I work for, they have this, instead of this one word, we always say this other word. We don't use this word. But when you ask AI to create content for them without having all of the data in the vector store, it will always use this word. If you prompt it to always say the other word, it will do it. And so creating an Instagram post with a good caption maybe takes like 10, 15 minutes. But it's completely useless. You know, you can do the same for carousels, or you can even do the same for reels. But then the question is, okay, now you've saved 15 minutes of that person's time, but how do we leverage that? But every Instagram post could also be, I don't know, a Pinterest post could be published as an update on your Google My Business page, but could also be a blog post, right? So you could also take all of the blog posts that you have on your page, feed it into the vector store, and then you say, whenever somebody is publishing a post on Instagram, create a blog post for, you know, like identify the keywords. You could even tell it to identify the keywords, you know, create a story around that topic, whatever, you know. I mean, we could go much deeper than that. But even if you don't trust AI to create the perfect content, you could draft a blog post, right? And then the post would pop up in your CMS. or in your WordPress, wherever. And then the content manager could refine it, add the last 10, 20%, publish it, it's done. But you could also, once that blog post is live, you can say, hey, now create a LinkedIn post about this, and it has the last 200 LinkedIn posts, so it knows exactly how the LinkedIn post is supposed to look like. And you can create a whole web of if this then that kind of things, and the content is great. It looks good. And if you have content where you need to have an eye on that, like blog posts, I think they are rather hard to create through AI, like 100%. Then you draft it, and then you have some person looking over it.
And then fix the last 20%, so to say.
Yeah. And then, maybe Instagram is your CMS for certain content types, but maybe your LinkedIn is the CMS for other content types, or YouTube Shorts are, the starting point, I would say, of that automation. So that's why I say, the CMS for marketing content is maybe not the CMS for your website.
I see. So like when you're looking at a website, you're seeing different areas that are on there. There's like this static content where you're maybe describing your services or the company itself or what have you, like the team members, right? Like classical stuff. And then there's the publishing side to your website, right? Like you mentioned the blog, maybe other people don't necessarily call it a blog, but wherever you discuss current things that are upcoming and are publishing new things, and you have all of your different social channels like LinkedIn or Instagram or stuff like this. And so instead of looking at your website necessarily as the one source of truth for all of your content that you kind of write the big long form blog post on there first and then think, how can I manually maybe turn this into an Instagram post? What you're saying is, if you're already active on a social platform, for example, Instagram, or for example, LinkedIn, or even both, right? Then use those as sources to take the content that you're already posting, to transform it into something that maybe can go on your blog. So you're not asking your marketing staff to do something new necessarily, like to kind of force them into a new workflow, or maybe it will feel to them like you're adding more stuff to their plate that they already have to deal with. But you're kind of saying, let's keep doing what we're doing, but I'm going to put in an automation to leverage or to actually give this action more leverage than it had before, because we're taking it out of this one silo and are making more things with it, yes. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think this is a really, really smart way to think about this. And I remember that you sent a newsletter on the Guardian's network the other day where you said, well, yeah, the market has changed, but like one thing that is very key is, I'm not sure if you called it visibility, but I remembered that you said, look, people have to be able to find you, and to learn something about you, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that point, like I scanned over that email and was like, yes, I think this is the one thing.
That's the one thing, and it's
right?
not only true for freelancers, it's true for everyone, right? It's small companies, there are so many companies out there that build amazing products, and nobody's ever heard of them. And of course, they have like one person sitting in marketing doing everything from CRM to sales, but not marketing.
Yeah.
And then they're supposed to, build the social channel and do this and do that and create blog posts. Of course, it's all mediocre at best. But you can do something about that.
I think another aspect, what makes video strong for me, is that other than text content with images like a blog post, or also why I think that people like video so much in general, like I think the rise of video content over the last years that is not really stopping anywhere, like it's just becoming more and more. It's also because you see someone talking, right? Like you have this feeling of that you're getting to know the person on the other end. Like you can't ask a question yet, but it still creates this form of like a little bit more trust maybe, yeah. Right?
Absolutely. No, I think that's a great example. I'm just reading this book by Steve Polina. It's some, personal development stuff. And he says that he started with a lot of very deep down personal content. I think he was only writing, but he says whenever he meets people in real life, they open up to him immediately because they believe they already know him, right?
Yeah.
But he has never met them before. So he says it's very interesting to see how people connect to you when they know your content. And I think this is the one message that I would get out to founders, especially of small companies, is create video content with your face on it and explain stuff, explain your business, and try to be, humble and not like, talking down on people, and just be approachable. This is something, and I tested it with this client of mine. He's talking, like I had a long form video from a video podcast, much like the tool that you're using, Riverside. So you have like his face in one video, only him talking, and I put it into Opus Clip, and it gave me all of these shorts, amazing shorts with like episodes where he's explaining things about his business and the whole industry. And these shorts perform amazingly well on YouTube as well as on TikTok. These are the best content snippets. And I think it's paramount for founders to do that.
Absolutely. Especially, I actually think for everyone. Just, like if you have this moment where somebody learned about anything connected to you, like maybe you spoke to them, but maybe a friend mentioned your service or recommended, or you get the idea to look up this person or this business, right? In any way, and ask yourself, like, you go on whatever search engine, let's use Google, whatever, like you just go and type the name of this business. How do you feel if you have to go to page number 3 to maybe find a link to the imprint, right? Or it just starts to look like they are everywhere. Like you get video results, like the first couple of pages. Maybe it's not necessarily even you're on place number 1 on the search result page with the service that you're offering. But if you're on all of the platforms that you deem relevant for your target group, and you're on search engines, and they basically make the impression that you're openly approachable because you're sharing why you're doing this, what you're doing that in video, you can read the blog, whatever, but you have all of those places. I think it feels a lot more like you're being transparent and sort of honest about what you're doing because you're passionate enough to sit yourself in front of a camera to actually talk about it.
100%. And the thing you just mentioned triggered a thought. What I was doing for this one client that's one of the first things, of course, everyone does. If you want to buy a product, if you want to buy an expensive product, you look for reviews, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What are other people saying about this? And I did that for that company, and the first 4 or 5 results were websites talking about their service, comparing it to other services. It was not their content. So, and they would pop up somewhere, under the fold on I don't know where. And I said, we have to change this. And, we could now, back to what we talked about earlier, we could now create our own website and our own page and, try to outperform them. I don't think it's going to happen. But we could offer video testimonials of our customers, right? And we did that, and they show up rather high. And it's great content. It's an easy SEO hack, and it works. So yeah, I think a lot of companies, for some reason, are not thinking about the fact that people might Google them.
Yeah.
Even though they use performance marketing and SEO tactics out.
Exactly. Cool. Hey, this was a very interesting discussion. Maybe let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up for all of our listeners to leave them with something concrete they can do today. Let's say you're a small to medium business and you have a website with your stuff on it. You're not happy with your visibility on search. Maybe you even tried Google Ads, or you even tried SEO stuff or whatever, bought like an SEO improvement package from an agency. You're not yet really into video. What would you say they should do first, like as an immediate action to try, as a first experiment?
I would go to ChatGPT and try to build a custom GPT. It's very simple. You just go to your own GPTs. You can just create a new GPT. And then you can, download all of the blog posts that you've made over the last 6 to 12 months, some like content that you personally like. You add it to the GPT, and then you prompt the GPT, hey, you're a content creator. I want you to create blog content that is just like the stuff that you have in your knowledge database. And the next time you write a blog, you just go to your GPT and ask it to create a blog post about topic X, focusing on keywords Y, I don't know, and then just see what happens, because I think most people are very afraid that, when you go to ChatGPT and ask it to create content for you, it always looks the same. It's shit, right? But if you give more context, and the new term is AI framing. It's not prompting, it's framing. So you give the frame, you put it basically in a box where it can move. AI will create much better results. And once you've done that, and okay, I can create content that is at least 80-90% what I want, you can add it to an automation. You go to make.com, sign up, or to Zapier, and then you try to automate the process, right? So the next time you want to create a blog post, maybe your starting point is a Google Sheet. And you say, every time I add a new row to the Google Sheet, please create a blog post out of this and make it look like these other blog posts that I uploaded already. And that saves a lot of time and effort. And I think it's easy to do. Everyone could do it. You don't need to know how to program. You just sign up for ChatGPT and for make.com. It's very intuitive. I would do that.
And then have it post on LinkedIn, for example.
Yeah, you could do that as well. If you want to let it post on LinkedIn, then you should also scrape or at least copy and paste the LinkedIn post that you made so it knows how your LinkedIn post is supposed to look like. Add it to the custom GPT and tell it like, hey, whenever I ask you to create a LinkedIn post for me, please refer to the knowledge database and look up the LinkedIn post so you know how to do it. And even if you don't want to, automate the whole thing, you could at least, create a draft for you so you can look over it and then you publish it.
Perfect. Cool. I think from my point of view, that's a great place to start, especially for people who might be afraid to go into video production right away. But for everyone who's at least considering the idea, I think to get an okay-ish microphone and sit down in like a relatively tidy environment and to actually just make those initial couple of videos where you're describing what your business does, maybe different aspects of it. You can describe how your services work or what your products are, or, have 10 videos of whatever, half an hour each, 15 minutes each, and just have them on your YouTube channel. Describe them as you would be describing, I don't know, maybe even treat it as a blog post or whatever, but use the description field, put your keywords in there, describe what is going on in the video, add a couple chapters to it, and just have this stuff there. That's a huge win already, right? And then if you go on and use tools like Opus Clip, for example, that Jan described, where you can literally copy paste a YouTube link into the tool and it will automatically scan the content and try to identify 1 to 2 minute long shorts, and not just random. It reads through the whole content and tries to find the pieces that actually make sense on their own, to post them manually or even automatically as shorts back onto YouTube or even also on TikTok. I think that is really low effort to possibly really have good results that are maybe not necessarily your website, but for your website it's hard to get onto the first page. But if you have results on YouTube and TikTok, you can link back to your website and have people redirected that way. And that's a good win too.
I think so too, and maybe for the marketers who are now watching and what are these guys talking about? There are so many amazing tools that do all that. I've seen a couple of these tools, and again, if your marketing team is not already using these tools, then it's hard to make them use it and make them use it in the right way. There are tools like, I think this one tool is called Later, for example. You can publish Instagram Reels, but you can also publish them on TikTok and as YouTube Shorts. For this one client, I've tried it with the marketing team, and they did it once, and then they never did it because it's an extra step, It's an extra click, but for some reason they're not doing it anymore. What I'm suggesting is that not only the automation, not only if you post an Instagram Reel, also post it as a YouTube Short. That's a simple automation, right? But for example, a YouTube Short has 5,000 characters for a description. An Instagram post has, 2,000 or something less, for example. For sure. What you can do is, in that automation, ask ChatGPT to transform the text content, right? And maybe you want to target different keywords for your YouTube Short. that's an extra step that AI can do for you. And most of the tools that I've seen, they are not there yet. I guess there will be in a couple of months, or maybe there are tools already, I don't know. But to me, again, it's not about using new tools or telling people to use new tools, but just looking at the process that people are going through every day and then try to leverage that process and make more out of it without them changing anything.
Awesome. Amazing. I think this was a really hands-on and interesting episode, also to me as a reminder of what's possible, to how to connect platforms that you might already have an account for at least and maybe are not using to their full potential yet, and where you can get going this way without adding lots of extra effort and can potentially really see results very quickly. I think the next 10 years on the internet are going to be very interesting. And I do believe, as you know, that communication amongst humans is probably the hardest problem that we have to solve, to get to a common understanding, to understand each other and where we're going with things. And we know we have the tech now, and to reconfigure what we're doing for the next 10 years after the advent of the introduction of AI and the availability to everyone is going to be a paradigm shift. And I'm looking forward to discussing all the new possibilities on this show as well. Jan, thank you for coming on again. I always love to have you on the show. And thank you for all of your insight that you're collecting with all of these companies every day. I think it's really valuable information for everyone listening here.
Thanks. Pleasure was mine.
See you on the next one. Bye.